Assalamu alaikum, fam. Hope you're doing well. So, we're continuing our reading of Shakespeare. I have taken classes on him. Very fantastic. Just the way in which he writes really makes you think and contemplate. And his style, obviously, is legendary. So, we're in Scene 2, Act 1. Brutus has exited. There was a dialogue between him and Cassius. So, let's continue. Well, Brutus, thou art noble, yet I see thy honourable metal may be wrought from that is disposed. Therefore, it is meet that noble minds keep ever with their likes. Now this is interesting. So think about what he said, honourable metal. So that's a phrase where people say, do you not have the steel to do what needs to be done? So when people talk about your nerves, they talk about what you're capable of. They usually use a metaphor of metal. So here you see a kind of 16th century type of wording to kind of get at, hey, do you have the honorable metal, right? A heart of gold. Like, metal references were highly used in poetic spheres. Now, what does he also say here? Noble minds keep ever with their likes. So, those kinds of people will group together, right? You will try to be around people of like minds, right? For whoso firm that cannot be seduced, Caesar doth bear me hard, but he loves Brutus. If I were Brutus now, and he were Cassius, he should not humor me. So here you see an admonition of, he's even saying that if he was to switch parts with Brutus, he would not even entertain his own self, right? So Cassius is admitting kind of his aims. To humor someone is to be like, give them your ear, give them the time of day. Sometimes people will say, humor me and hear me out, right? It's like, okay, make you feel comfortable with talking to me, and I'll listen to you and give you my ear. But here he's saying that Brutus shouldn't even give him his ear. So you can see Cassius's darker aims here. And he admits that Caesar bears Cassius hard, meaning probably gets irritated with him a lot, looks at him, like, I don't really enjoy this guy's presence, yet he bears a warm heart for Brutus. So Cassius knows Caesar favors Brutus more. I will this night, in several hands, in at his window throw, as if they came from several citizens, writings all tending to the great opinion that Rome holds of his name, wherein obscurely Caesar's ambition shall be glanced at, and after this, let Caesar seat him sure, so securely, to look out for himself, right? To seat him secure is a brilliant way of saying, like, very secure in your position, right? For we will shake him, or worse days endure. Exit. So here he's telling you his kind of intention. We will shake him. Okay, so now we're on scene 3, the same, a street is the scene, okay? Thunder, lightning, enter from opposite sides Casca with his sword drawn, and Cicero. Now this is a dialogue between Cicero and Casca. Good even, Casca. Brought you Caesar home. Why are you breathless? And why stare you so? Casca. Are not you moved, when all the sway of earth shakes like a thing unfirm? O Cicero, I have seen tempests, when the scolding winds have rived the knotty oaks, and I have seen the ambitious oceans swell, and rage and foam, to be exalted with the threatening clouds. But never till tonight, never till now, did I go through a tempest dropping fire. Either there is a civil strife in heaven, or else the world too saucy with the gods incense them to send destruction. So here, what is he getting at, right? He's saying he's been through a tempest is a storm, okay? something like, oh, it's not rain, think of a hurricane. You're on the ocean, it's getting wild, right? So he says ambitious ocean swells. Like, so if you're on a ship and it just comes up and it's raging, and the foam, like when the ocean's very active, you get the splashing and the crashing of the waves, and you get the foam there. Makes that kind of sound. So here, Shakespeare has given us a picture of what here Casca has seen. Now, and he says further, that have rived the knotty oaks. A knotty oak, usually if it has some knots on it, it's had some branches fall through storms, and a little knot has grown on there. And oak trees come, from a little tiny acorn, right? And they take a long time to grow, okay? So, an old oak tree with lots of knots in it, it's been through some challenges, right? So if there's a storm that can make the knotty oak tree sway, it's going to be quite a problem. Me and you most definitely wouldn't want to be walking with our umbrellas through a storm like that. So twice here of the sea and the oak trees, he's given us an example of, hey, I've seen some heavy type of weather. So he compares that weather example to his, Roman/Greek pantheistic view of, Mount Olympus, God's causing trouble, and that humans are being, too saucy, so a little bit too not really checking their behavior, and that they're actually incensing the gods to send destruction. So incense means to incite, to bait, to ask for it, right? So their behavior is so that they should just be zapped, right? Now remember when he says here that he's seen these tempests dropping fire, thunderbolts. You can picture Zeus, okay? Jupiter, essentially. So they're kind of getting at their own religion in this view through the character, but also through Shakespeare, how he's writing. So already, boom, you see the brilliance of the scene, the mind of what you're picturing, and how, there's just some things going on here. Cicero, why saw you anything more wonderful? So Cicero's saying wonderful, it's like Casca's like, I've seen tempests, and Cicero's like, that's quite wonderful, right? So he's kind of getting at the sublime element there. Casca, a common slave, you know him well by sight, held up his left hand, which did flame and burn like 20 torches jombed, and yet his hand, not sensible of fire, remained unscorched. Besides, I had not since put up my sword. Against the Capitol I met a lion, who glared upon me, and surely by without annoying me, and there were drawn up a heap 100 ghastly women, transformed with fear, who swore they saw men all in fire walk up and down the streets. And yesterday the bird of night did sit. Now hold on. I met against the Capitol. I met a lion who glared upon me. Now, imagine that this glaring is how they're describing Caesar. So, Caesar is looking, boom, right? Now, imagine, do you ever seen the lions who have the very golden, savanna brush kind of eye color, and they have it's very open, and when they have their jaw down and they look at you, it's like this raw energy of oh, whoa. There's a certain look in a lion's eyes that when it glazes on you, you're like, whoa. We would all be afraid of a lion in the wild, but there is a particular look that doesn't necessarily have to be when the lion is angry, but rather when it seems neutral and it locks upon you and you don't know if it's going to just stand there or come forward. That's the ambiguous gaze. So with Caesar, he could be brutal or he could be passionate, like any human, but since he's in the imperial seat, that gaze, that lion type gaze of you don't know if he's going to be cruel or merciful, well, that's gonna cause you to fear something, right? You know, when he talks about ghastly women transformed with fear, you also wonder, like, their faces are construed. Very interesting type of facial expressions he has put in here for us to examine. And yesterday the bird of night did sit even at noonday upon the marketplace. So here you get the sort of, maybe he's talking about an owl. Yes, yeah, hooting and shrieking. So here they have Minerva, you know, aka Athena. Her symbol was the owl, right? Owls are traditionally night birds. Wisdom, all types of feelings they had about ominous birds. They did think birds were omens, right? We as Muslims, no, we don't have bird omens. But for them, it's like, hey, even in the time Shakespeare is writing, there's still elements of bird omens, right? Superstitions. So he's put a double dosage of the bird elements in here and be like, hey, something going on here. What's this night bird doing in the day, hooting and shrieking in the marketplace? Should be in the forest asleep, waiting for night. With their market. Instead, they're in the human market. Really makes you wonder. Or you can look at it even further, where so many rats in the market that even the night birds come out to eat, showing how bad the market is. You can look at this in so many different ways, which is why Shakespeare is so brilliant, because you can extract so much from it. When these prodigies do so conjointly meet, let not men say these are their reasons. They are natural. For I believe they are punctuous things, unto the climate that they point upon. So notice how he said, unto the climate they point upon. So here he gave you the bird example, that the marketplace in this time was where people went to meet and greet. A lot of corruption in the market. Well, you're going to see the different kinds of both symbolic rats and literal rats, right? A good, clean market has a different feeling than one where it's like a lot of conniving, a lot of like, sniveling and like riddles and just really trying to one-up each other and trying to get the maximum profit at expense at the person who's buying, right? You want a fair market, you want a good market. But this marketplace is both literal but also the political market, right? Caesar's situation, the market of the Senate, right, where people are pitching ideas, exchanging things like verbs and talking. There's so many different ways you can look at a market in this example that solidifies what he's getting at here, to the point where the predator birds are now come to this humanoid market, and that is showing the climate of like the atmosphere, what's going on, how the feeling is, what's happening. It's like if you were at a battlefield and it's not going too well, the predator birds come out and start eating the corpses on the field, right? So here he gave an example of a night bird, the owl, hooting and shrieking in the human marketplace during the day. That's kind of showing the climate of there's too many rats, there's too much backstabbing, too much plotting, too much scheming, something going on here. You can kind of see in so many ways, if you feel me. Cicero. Indeed, it is strange to pose time, but men may construe things after their fashion, cleaned from the purpose of the things themselves. Come Caesar to the Capitol tomorrow. So here you can see Cicero being to Casca the reasonable aim. And this is also brilliant because Cicero was kind of seen as this very rational guy with the writings that survive of him. He traditionally did oppose Caesar and then later bent the knee and submitted to Caesar. But then people say he was around when Caesar was stabbed. So Cicero is controversial, but he does have a reputation of being the uber, rhetorician and being rational. So here he's telling Casca, people can construe things after their fashion, meaning they can make, a mountain out of a molehill. They can only frame it from their perspective, and it can be totally removed from the actual situation, right? So when he says, clean from the purpose of the things means like it's clean. There's not even a stickiness. There's not even like a web, a string of anything connected to the original situation, that the person has completely fabricated it from what its essential point was. So Cicero is kind of being this solid figure for us to be like, hey, Casca is going a bit too far. But you contrast these two characters, right? Casca is saying, look at the climate. Cicero is saying, people can fashion it unto themselves. So you see this sort of really tit-for-tat dialogue going on of, hey, Caesar has created this atmosphere. And what's cool about it is that this is a poetic sense for us, but we can also see there's a bit of truth in this, how people must have felt at this very pivotal moment in time, right? And Shakespeare has done a fantastic job at making these characters be authentic to their time period so that we feel like we're there with them, right? So again, hope you enjoyed, and let me know what you think.